What's going on, everyone? Happy Wednesday to everyone. Hopefully everyone is doing well, staying safe, healthy. If you had to take a COVID test, hopefully you have tested negative. If you did test positive, I hope you have a full and speedy recovery with no long COVID issues. And if you tested positive for another virus, yes, they're starting to enter the picture now. Well, I hope you have a full and speedy recovery from that as well. It's time now for the Wednesday edition of the Pandemic Update for Wednesday, October 2nd, 2024. If you're new to my channel, welcome to my channel. This is where I do the pandemic update on all things COVID. Any other virus that could be a health threat to you. Pollen levels, air quality levels, celebrity health news. Yes, we talk about that from time to time. More so when things get slow, we start to include that in. And yesterday, as you saw, if you did see yesterday's video, unfortunately, we did lose several celebrities. Today's focus is going to be quite a few news stories, some COVID data, maybe we'll take a look at a little bit of wastewater data and some of our daily data. So if you're new to my channel, subscribe down below, give this a thumbs up, hit that notification bell, share this video with anyone you know, and of course leave your comments down below. We do have several different news stories today, starting off with bird flu, which is becoming an outbreak now in Vietnam. Bird flu kills 47 tigers, 3 lions, and a panther in Vietnam Zoo, state media reports. And it's not just a problem there, it's really a problem all around the world. And today I do ask one question, and matter of fact, I'm going to post this as a poll question on X when we're done today's videos. Do you notice a lot of sick animals in your area? It could be birds. It could be raccoons. It could be foxes. That's what I notice. It could be deer. You know, when you think of deer being sick, you sometimes think of chronic wasting disease. It could be really any animal that you see when maybe you're going out on a nature walk. And quick friendly reminder, if you do see an animal that looks sick, whether maybe it be mange, bird flu, whatever the case may be, please try and stay away from it. You could get infected with whatever it has. Me personally, I have seen a ton of sick foxes lately, and I believe raccoons and groundhogs as well. I remember one day I was on a bike ride and there was a sick, I can't remember if it was groundhog or a fox, or excuse me, groundhog or a raccoon, but yeah, it's been a thing here, and I've seen in local community groups, a lot of people reporting sick foxes as well. So this is really a problem, bird flu or whatever it is here in the United States. All right, moving on to our next story. Speaking of animals, still, a horse has died from an illness before a big race at Fresno Fair. This is the second horse to die there within days, so this is not good. It's also not the first time in the United States this year we've seen sudden illness, sickening, and causing death in horses. So this is something we have to keep our eyes on. All right, over in COVID news, long COVID affects 38% of emergency patients with persistent symptoms. So this is a new study that's out. I'll make sure it gets to the archives over my website, and of course I'll make sure it gets tweeted out. I already did tweet this out, I believe, and you can read the full study for yourself. We don't actually on video do read full studies because it just takes up too much time in these updates. Alright, taking a look at this now. The Last Dinner Party. It's a music group, I assume. I don't really know much about this group, but they've had to cancel several tour dates due to an unforeseen illness in the band after some fans were subjected to strange behavior when arriving at a gig at the weekend. But the point is, they were also dealing with illness. All right, moving on now to this. 180 Royal Caribbean cruise passengers sickened with gastrointestinal illness. Yet again, another outbreak of this where, you know the deal, people throwing up, people having diarrhea, nauseous, all those type symptoms, abdominal cramps, you know the deal. We've seen this time and time again. Why people will send a whole bunch of money just to end up getting sick. And let's be honest here for a second. We can see here that it was only 9% of the 2,172 passengers, but you know that number could grow. But again, your chances of getting sick when you go on these big, look at a picture here. That is a huge cruise ship. Your chances of getting sick when you go on these cruise ships, it's pretty high, which I often do not recommend going on these ships. Flu deaths in children hit new record as vaccination rates have decreased. In the 2023 to 2024 season, there were 200 pediatric flu-related deaths in the United States. That's quite a few. I would like to know how that stands up against COVID. I actually don't have the number of how many COVID deaths there were in children last year, but that seems like a lot of flu deaths, which, by the way, my friends, it's preventable. Get your child the flu vaccine, and you can prevent death. That is a virus that we can prevent, and we can prevent transmission in most cases. Sometimes there'll be a breakthrough flu case, but it's not always a something that happened. Alrighty, moving on to our last news story of the day, which yet again includes a very familiar face on these pandemic updates. Whoopi Goldberg. Apparently, Whoopi Goldberg has a cold yet again. I think her immunity is likely warped from COVID at this point. She's had COVID 4 times. And she also gave a kiss, or Kate McGinnon gave a kiss to her. The point is they had contact, and who knows, maybe she passed whatever cold she had over to Kate McGinnon. This is just ridiculous, and if we take a look back here, this is coming from Jammer over on Twitter, and he actually tweeted something back in July. Whoopi Goldberg, who just had her 4th COVID infection, joked about her post-infection brain damage on TV. That's nothing to joke about, because some people, this gets really serious. So clearly, if she was joking about brain damage, that means she's already having brain fog. I mean, just ridiculous. When are we going to finally take a stand and say, you know what, getting infected again and again is ridiculous, and we're not going to put up with this. At some point, we need to do something about this. Allergy levels for today. 39% of the country is in low to medium status. Taking a look at the air quality levels for today, the worst air qualities, if this does not load, I can just tell you, are in the West Coast. There are some new wildfires that have started in California. I know of at least one. There may be more, and you can see here, actually this is a little bit better, but take a look near San Francisco. You do see some maroons and some reds showing up here. Even just south of Sacramento, a lot of yellows showing up. Let's widen this out. There are some minor yellows down in Houston, Texas, also up in Montana and Wyoming. You can see just a little bit of yellow on the East Coast. Florida also does have some yellow today as well. Want to learn more about the climate and weather? You can do that over on my X account, Climate Data Report. All right, taking a look at Philadelphia for yesterday. Hopefully I do have this loaded up here, and we do see that Philadelphia did have a slight increase in EMS calls. There it is, 814 EMS calls reported yesterday. Again, we still don't know what that real number was for Monday, because it seemed to me as if there was an error on Sunday, which led to a low number, but then a really high number on Monday. Taking a live look at what's going on, as we're at 5:45 in the evening. This is Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, just outside of Philadelphia. And we do see there are a few calls right now, but it's not terribly busy. A couple respiratory calls and a few other things going on right now. Chester County, Pennsylvania, we do see a few calls going on there as well. Respiratory difficulty shows up a couple times. Sick person, heart problems shows up a couple times as well. All right, speaking of EMS calls, speaking of COVID, let's go over to today's notes, because the first thing I want to tell you about is something that I have observed. So there is one of the apps that I do. It is called Roadie, and on that app you can potentially do prescription gigs where you're delivering from CVS. There's another one called Busy Bee. Busy Bee's not here in Southeast Pennsylvania. There are a few others that show up at Rite Aid, and then some other random ones. I have noticed, and I don't just look here, I just look at other markets on the map as well to see what's out there available in terms of gigs. I have noticed there have been less prescription gigs now since COVID levels have started to drop. That's telling me there are less people needing Paxlovid delivered. Now, granted, I don't know what every delivery is, but there have been a few cases where I have either delivered to the person, they said, please just leave it outside, I have COVID, or I can see them putting it in the bag, and I can see them putting Paxlovid in the bag. And I haven't done any prescription deliveries since, I think the last one I did was last week sometime. I don't do very many of them. I just do like a couple a week. But the point is, I'm seeing less deliveries on the map in many different areas now that COVID levels are starting to drop. So, hey, maybe that's a good indicator that things really are improving, and maybe we really are heading into a lull before the winter wave comes in. All right, now some data from CJS 83172. And some of these are daily numbers. A couple of these may be weekly numbers. Florida yesterday reported 639 new cases and 3 new deaths in their daily update. New Jersey added 525 new cases and 3 new deaths in their weekday update. New York had 885 new cases in their daily update yesterday. Virginia, 2,189 new cases, and they added another 39 new deaths to their cumulative open data page over the last 4 days. Puerto Rico had 331 new cases in their daily update. Don't see anything about deaths there. Maryland had another 1,171 new cases and 31 new deaths. Maine added another 378 new cases and just 2 new deaths. Good to see Maine coming down. Michigan, this is a weekly number, 3,640 new cases. I do believe that is dropping. And 57 new deaths. Wow, that's a lot of deaths, but there's a reason for it. He puts a high number, partly owing to the near certain underreporting of deaths last week. So they had a little bit of an underreporting the previous week, which adds to a higher number being reported this week. All right, let's take a look at a few other things. Up in Canada, and we do need to refresh this, the viral level for COVID activity at this time is moderate. Flu A is moderate. Flu B not detected. RSV is low at this time. And now let's take a look at Walgreens. The national positivity rate at Walgreens is 21.8%. The prior week was 25.3%. That's down by 3.5%. You can clearly see here on the chart, things are really dropping. Matter of fact, this almost matches what's happening with emergency department visits with people diagnosed with COVID. I'll show you that in just a moment. Total tests, 7,788. The prior week was 9,981. All right, yeah, let's take a look at some other COVID data, shall we? KP 3.1.1 leads the way at 58.7% for COVID variants. And then if we jump down here, XEC does now come in at 6%. That should update again next week. Let's take a look at those emergency department visits just real quickly. And you can see here, remember I just showed you the Walgreens chart of the positivity rate dropping? Well, look at the national rate for emergency department visits diagnosed with COVID. It's equally dropping, and this is really good. I mean, look at this. We are halfway to the spring levels at this point. Yeah, something that does not usually happen at this time of year. Meaning, when we do enter that next wave, we're going to be entering it at a lower than, I want to say lower than normal level for the fall wave. We'll be entering it at a lower level, which is actually not a bad thing. If we enter at a lower level, it would have to rise really fast to get to last year's level, this year's level. I'm not saying we won't get to last winter's level, but I'm just saying that given that we're going to be, look at this. Believe it or not, right now, take a look at this. Can we look at last year? Emergency department visits. Yeah, we're actually now just about lower than last year at this time for emergency department visits diagnosed with COVID. My friends, that is a huge milestone in this pandemic. But at any given time, a new variant could pop up or something new could pop up. Let's take a look at a few wastewater sites, shall we? How about we come down here to Memphis, Tennessee? What's going on there? Curiosity's got the better of me. And it does look to me like, hasn't updated. So we'll have to use a different wastewater site. And let's go down here to New Orleans area. Can we see what's going on there? And we'll see what's going on the east side of New Orleans. And we do note here, all right, it hasn't updated since the 23rd, but we do note at that time, looks like COVID levels were bottoming after a huge drop. Ever so slight rise, not terribly concerning. We can see everything else is not really calculated. Norovirus was starting to rise there at the time. And let's go out here and see what's going on in Salt Lake City, Utah area. And we'll take a look at this. 600,000 population. COVID levels are really low. RSV, Influenza A, Influenza B, HMPV, all really low at this time. Norovirus is dropping slightly at this time. That's good to see. No Mpox. Yeah, really good news to report out of Utah. taking a look now, let's go up to the Northeast, shall we? Let's see what's going on in Maine. We talked about some numbers for Maine, but let's take a look at wastewater. And wastewater in Maine does show a drop at this time. RSV is low. Influenza A is starting to drop. And influenza and COVID are two things that should probably continue to be watched in New England. I'll explain in just a moment. Influenza B is low. HMPV is low. Norovirus is starting to rise. No issues with Mpox. All right, the reason why I say these levels should be watched, probably more so flu, maybe starting to rise, is because the leaves are starting to change colors up there. The leaf peepers are starting to show up. You know, places are going to get crowded. People are going to be congregating together. COVID, flu, RSV, all these things could start to spread here pretty soon. And though they already peaked for the summer wave of COVID, at least in Maine, Vermont's a different story. Vermont's been continuously high. It's been stubbornly high. Pretty similar to what's happening in Washington. You got to keep an eye. And the leaf peeping, it's going to start from the northern places first. Maine will be maybe a couple more weeks. Vermont, it's starting now. You're starting to get near the peak of leaves from what I'm hearing. And places like the White Mountains in New Hampshire, you're probably getting near peak as well. These next few weekends, and especially Columbus Day weekend, could potentially be super spreaders for all of these viruses. So please be aware of that. Real quickly, I want to see what's going on in Newark, New Jersey. We haven't looked at that on video in at least a week or two. And COVID is finally back to low levels. RSV, Influenza A, Influenza B, all low. HMPV is low, and norovirus, look at this. We're not seeing it rise anymore. It's actually dropped a little bit. That's good at the moment. Mpox, they have had some detections of Mpox back in August, but remember, that's clade 2. It's not the new clade 1b strain that is impacting other parts of the world. All right, let's take a look at New Jersey for hospitalizations today. 415 people in the hospital, 69 out of 70 hospitals reporting. On a ventilator, 9. In the ICU at this time, 50, and discharges at this time, 51. New York State for today, 719 people tested positive, and wait till you see this. The hospitalizations continue to drop. 903 people in the hospital. Yeah, it's about to get into the 800s. It continues to drop yet again. Like I said, we are going into territories that are lower than this time last year, which would be a really good starting point for the next wave. It's actually some really good news. I know it's hard to believe, but it's some really good news. But here's the deal. November 1st, we're going to see a lot of these states' levels could potentially randomly jump higher. Why would that happen? Well, because on November 1st, it's going to be mandatory for all hospitals to report once again. So at that point in time, yes, the levels could look higher than they were last year, because I don't think data is going to be retroactive back to last year. I don't think we're going to magically see the data fill in and show everything that was missing last year. So we could see levels all of a sudden look a lot higher once the mandatory reporting from hospitals does start back up. Alrighty, folks, that does it for today's pandemic update. We'll have another pandemic update, I think, again tomorrow. We may have some stuff from other parts of the country and maybe other places around the world. Tomorrow will be Thursday, so we'll have the UK. If you enjoyed this update, give it a thumbs up. Want to see more updates like this? Subscribe down below, hit that notification bell, share this video with anyone you know, and of course, leave your comments down below. You got a comment on anything I said here today? Let me know about it down below, especially about those animals. I want to know, are you seeing any sick animals out in the wild in your area? And I am going to make a poll about that on X. I will share the results of that poll tomorrow. All right, see you all again next time. Until I see you again next time, stay safe, everyone. Have a fantastic Wednesday evening. Thanks for watching.